Post 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy making lackluster leaders legendary. Another than Miss Deborah Laurel.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm fabulous, fabulous, Miss Deborah. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Certainly. I help managers, particularly those who are new and have been promoted from being individual contributors, learn how to create a supportive and positive work environment where their employees want to stay and do their best. Unfortunately, when managers are promoted, they don't necessarily have the skills or the support in order to be successful. And 60% of new managers fail within the first 2 years. And I think it's due to the lack of skills and development. I've been doing this for over 5 decades, and I have worked with the Management Institute at the University of Wisconsin Madison School of Business for 30 years and trained in Africa, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe.
Miss Deborah, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today let's talk about what makes a bad manager bad. So tell us, Miss Deborah, what is the core mindset or underlying belief? I'm the smartest person in the room, or what typically separates bad managers from a good one?
Well, first of all, I want to be very clear. I don't think that managers wake up in the morning saying, ah ha ha, I'm going to be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think many of them have had bad models to follow, and many of them are simply out of their league. They don't know what they're doing, and they are trying to figure it out, and sometimes the way they figure it out doesn't work. A bad manager micromanages, is afraid of losing control, so they don't delegate, they don't recognize the skills and abilities of their employees. They choose to do either everything themselves, or if they assign something, they are looking over the shoulder of the employee who's doing the work and making it very difficult for them. One of the things that poor managers do is not give decision making authority to employees so they can actually do their job, or advocate for the resources and needs and priorities of the staff. One of the important things that I think managers need to do is set employees up for success. And a bad manager doesn't do that. The bad manager does not provide clear instruction, identify what the expectations are specifically for good performance, does not provide adequate training or support, does not advocate for resources or provide those resources. And if an employee is not doing well, blames the employee rather than looking at the manager, him or herself, to say, what didn't I give to that employee? Because I believe most employees, most of us want to do a good job and we do the best we can given the information that we have. And bad managers don't communicate well.
Miss Deborah, micromanagement is a classic complaint. Why do you think otherwise competent individuals so often fall to this trap? And what is the hidden cost to a team's innovation and morale?
Well, backing up into that, of course, it's devastating for the team, for their sense of trust, their belief in their leader, their ability to work with each other in a trusting way. So that if you don't trust, if you don't feel you have psychological safety, so you can make a mistake and learn from it instead of being blamed and blamed publicly for it, then you're not going to risk trying something new. And you'll have to repeat the first part of you're asking why competent people end up being poor managers.
Mm-hmm.
I really think they don't know how to manage. An individual contributor, somebody who is a wonderful salesperson or a wonderful technician, to move up in the organization is promoted into a managerial job. And the assumption is that they already have the skills they need. They were successful in one situation, they will be successful in another. And they're kind of thrown into the pool at the deep end. They're not given training, they're not prepared. There are managers who can't give up what they were doing as individual contributors. They don't realize that they need to plan, guide, assign, train, evaluate. They don't learn, haven't learned how to give constructive feedback to a poor performing employee. And as a matter of fact, I recently did two workshops for an international organization where that was the problem. The managers were unwilling to give constructive feedback to poor performers because they were afraid to. They didn't know how to do it.
Miss Deborah, tell us if you had to pinpoint the single biggest failure in communication by bad manager, what would it be? Or a failure to listen, a failure to provide clarity, or failure to give constructive feedback?
I think it's the issue of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
When giving an assignment, it's got to be clear. What are you expected to do? What decision making authority do you have? What kind of monitoring is going to happen, if any? What are the deadlines? And what are the expectations? A poor manager will say, well, I know it when I see it. Well, that doesn't give any parameters for an employee to figure out what's really expected of them. And clarity in terms of when they are giving constructive feedback, the employee has to know specifically what didn't go well. But I think it gets more to the ability to coach, because when you're a coach as a manager, you don't do all the talking. You lay
Mm-hmm.
the parameters. This is what I've seen. Please tell me, why that happened. What are the consequences if that will continue? Are those consequences acceptable to you? And being clear that we only take time with people we care about. And I think that's something that I was listening to a podcast earlier today where they were talking about empathy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also a huge requirement for leaders, and particularly in these days with such upheaval constantly coming at folks. They need to feel that they are heard, that somebody cares, that they're not just a cog in the wheel.
Just not a cog in the wheel. Miss Deborah, how does the behavior of a bad manager around success and failure destroy psychological safety and trust within a team?
Well, if you don't know what you're being held accountable for, If the minute you make a mistake, you're yelled at and you're blamed, you're not going to open your mouth. You're not going to risk trying something new. And it's going to be very hard for you or the team itself to feel comfortable enough and open enough to share ideas, particularly if those ideas have been shot down in the past. So, those are some of the behaviors that a bad manager does, shows that will affect the psychological safety and the success of the team. The team has to know what the vision is, have a shared goal, feel that they are supported, that they know what's expected. Whether it's on an individual basis or a team basis, it's really the same thing. Is there clarity? Is there empathy? Is there support?
Miss Deborah, what are the earliest subtle signs in a team's dynamics before people start quitting that indicate a manager is failing?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of sick leave. People stop showing up. They also may quit while they're working, meaning the silent quitting where they are just doing the bare minimum. Those
Mm-hmm.
would be two indications before employees start to leave.
Miss Deborah, it's often said that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. From your perspective, what is the final straw that makes a great employee decided to leave a bad manager?
I don't know whether it's the last straw.
Mm-hmm.
A highly performing high performer is going to leave if they feel that they're in a toxic situation where they're never given opportunities to use their strengths or to build skills through some opportunities for professional growth. They're not given that ability. If they're not given decision making authority so they can actually fulfill their roles completely, they're going to leave. I was in a terrible situation. I was a high performer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I left. And 70% of employees who voluntarily leave companies leave because of the manager, because the manager impacts the entire culture of the workplace. And if the manager isn't supportive, people start to have conflict. If the manager doesn't know how to retain trust, create trust, be supportive, the manager also, a high performer will leave if the manager is totally ineffective, doesn't make decisions, waffles on everything. So nothing is ever clear. The landscape is always changing. Why would a high performer, why would anybody want to stay in that situation?
Miss Deborah, as you making leaders legendary, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, the reason why I want to make leaders legendary is because I don't want employees to be treated the way I was treated. I want employees to be treated with respect. I want employees to have opportunities for growth. I want them to feel that they're part of something that's much larger than themselves. There's a story about a group at a Parker Pen a factory going up and down up the line asking individual people what they were doing, and they got to a woman who was seated at a bench, and she had three boxes. In one box was the pen were the pens, in the other box were the clips that go on the pen, and the third box was where she put the completed pen, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
asked her what she did, fully expecting that that's what she would say. I put the pens together. But that's not what she said. What she said was, I'm responsible for the image of Parker Pen. Because if the person who purchases our pen and wears it in their lapel pocket and the clip is crooked and dull, that's not going to be a good image for Parker Pen. And I'm in awe. I want every employee to feel that what they're doing, can do with pride. And I'm in awe that somebody took the time to talk to her about that.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Deborah, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, I don't know if they want to be like me, but if they want to be good leaders, good managers, learn. That's a key component of being a good manager. Be curious and learn. Don't make assumptions about what people are doing or why they're doing what they're doing. Ask them, support them, coach them so that they can be successful.
Hmm. Ask them so that they will be successful. I like that, Miss Deborah. And thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influenced your Johnny?
The Art of Leadership by Lynn Bothwell is a book that I read many, many years ago. And he's very wise in what it takes to be a leader, to set up an organization where people want to thrive, can thrive, and the organization can thrive. So I highly recommend that book.
Thank you for that recommended book, Miss Deborah. And in your view, what is the clearest distinction between someone who is merely a manager of tasks and true leader of people, and why does it difference from matter so much?
Well, for a long time, people have said managers are the practical implementers. Those are the ones who get the job done. The leader is the one who sets the vision, sets the mission of the organization, focuses everyone on a shared goal. And so there are managers who can be leaders, but many managers aren't because they just focus on let's meet deadlines and meet production uh, quotas, and they're not thinking about the people, and the people don't follow them. If you're a leader, people follow you. You're charismatic or you are appealing in some way, and they want to go along toward that vision with you. Managers can attain that. Managers can be leaders, but more often than not, they're in the trenches and they're focused on the practical implementation on a daily basis. And very often they're doing the work right next to their employees. The leader is the one who is the the public facing person for the organization. That's who represents the organization, to the public, to the customers, and has the ability to make people believe in the vision and believe that the company is what the leader says it is.
Miss Deborah, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. I'm a book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in third season. I'm a food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters and Movie 101 Review, Music 101 are in fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in second season, and My Baby Podcast Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. And Miss Deborah, how does one bad managers create a toxic ripple effect, influencing the culture of other teams and even the entire department or company?
If they're selfish, if they're focused only what's in it for them, if they create an environment where people are at each other's throats, where people are competing for limited resources, if the manager doesn't care about the employees, blames them for mistakes, even mistakes the manager made, looking for a scapegoat, all of those things create uh, a very toxic workplace. And if the manager pulls a kitchen cabinet together of a few close people who support him or her and excludes people who aren't like them, no, there's no diversity, there's no respect for differences, then you have a toxic work environment.
Certainly. And lastly, Miss Deborah, if you were to distill the essence of a good manager down to one guiding principle, what would it be?
Set the employees up for success.
Hmm. Yes. And Miss Deborah, help your new managers and trainers become great and what they do. Can you explain more about this phrase on your website?
Well, I am a management trainer, but I also train trainers. And the training that I teach and that I use is highly interactive skill building. It's not based on lecture. It's based on the employees and the participants in training learning what they need to do and practicing what they do so we build confidence in their own competence. So that's how I help new managers and trainers become great at what they do.
Miss Deborah Laurel, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you very much.
Yes. So, where do people reach you, Miss Deborah?
The best way to reach me is through the contact, the email on the website, Laurel and Associates Limited. That would be the best way.
Yes, people, I support Miss Deborah Laurel because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books or empowering advocacy will rise. So, Miss Deborah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.